Hello everyone, Laura K. Buzz here, and this is the first in a series of unscripted videos I'm doing talking about different Switch 2 games that I went hands-on with back at the London Switch 2 Experience demo a couple of weeks ago. I did a more formal scripted video about my opinions on the Switch 2 and going hands-on with it from an accessibility perspective a couple of weeks back, but I wanted to do some videos where I just go a little more hands-on with my thoughts on specific games while we just watch some raw unedited gameplay capture and talk a little bit about how I feel about some of these games. So, the reason I wanted to start with Donkey Kong Bananza is I think that this game feels very good in the moment to play. The traversal mechanics here feel very satisfying. It seems like the kind of game that you could probably do some very satisfying speedruns of, because you've got all this movement tech that allows you to seamlessly move across the world without any kind of momentum stoppers. You can destroy walls to sort of make direct line paths that I imagine are going to be very satisfying for optimizing your route. I'm very curious to see... I assume that like collecting a specific number of big crystal bananas is a progression limiter for the game, and I'm very curious to see what routing ends up being like for... Again, speedrun community around this game seems like it's going to be wonderful. And the combat itself feels very satisfying. The act of punching stuff feels very good. Outside of platforming contexts, I think the mechanics of running around smashing things, being able to rip chunks out of the ground to smash things with, all feel wonderful. This is a game that feels like an Incredible Hulk game, really tuned for just silly fun rather than needing like a serious context to it. And in that regard, I do enjoy this game. But I have some problems with it, and I think the big one I want to talk about first is just motion sickness, and I've been mulling over how to talk about this for a bit, because initially I wanted to give this game a little bit of the benefit of the doubt when I played it live and was feeling motion sickness while playing it, that maybe it was because, you know, I was at a slightly overwhelming public event. I was pretty tired. I'd played a lot of games in a very crowded space and was pretty overwhelmed and tired from the journey. I was like, these are all factors that sometimes make me a little more prone to motion sickness. Maybe it's more them and less the game. But watching back the gameplay footage that I captured while, you know, at home, well rested, in a good position to be a better judge of these things, yeah, this is setting off my motion sickness in a way that third-person platformers, particularly like Nintendo-developed third-person platformers, typically don't. And I'm clearly not alone in this, in that I've seen some YouTube content creators who've talked about, not necessarily at the London event, but at some of the other Nintendo events that have gone on, being asked when they sat down to play this game, oh, are you prone to motion sickness just because it's been an issue for a couple of people? So clearly I'm not alone in having had this motion sickness experience with the game, and I'm trying to put my finger on what it is the game is doing that's causing it. There's a couple of places I can more clearly identify it, and we'll talk about that later, but part of it, I think, is just... One of the things that makes this game feel so satisfying moment to moment is the ways that, while generally pretty fluid, deliberate hit-stop is used to emphasize the solidness of contact when we are breaking through rocks, when we are destroying the environment, when doing combat. And this sort of slight pausing of elements on screen to emphasize the moment of impact makes these hits feel very strong, but it undeniably impacts the fluidity of the experience. And I think the frequency with which this game is making use of that visual effect is meaning that, like, a game that is otherwise running at a pretty stable, predictable frame rate feels a little less consistent. And that is causing me some problems perceptually. I don't know whether this game supports variable refresh rate. And if it does, playing this in handheld mode with VRR might smooth out some of that issue and help for me. I feel like that is part of why this game is also, in the moment, did not feel like it was hitting a locked, stable frame rate the way that other first-party things at the event I played were. Mario Kart World, Metroid Prime 4, those were the other two big ones. They felt like rock solid, super smooth, never dropped a frame. There are definitely points where Donkey Kong Bananza is, even outside of the sort of artificial pausing from hit-stop animations, is struggling frame rate-wise. And there's a big example of it that's like a really obvious one I can point to, and we'll show you this in a second, is rotating the map. Because rather than being like a 2D representation of the level, or a 3D model in a traditional sense, the map in this game is a 3D model that is an accurate one-to-one recreation of the current state of the level, including any deformation you have done. If you've destroyed part of the landscape, that is being reflected in the map model, which means the map model can't just be a pre-designed, lower resolution model that, like, can gloss over a lot of the details and just be a model that's already designed to run well. It's loading the whole level as it truly is into map view, and as you'll see, when you rotate the map, it noticeably chugs. And that's the most obvious place you see it, but there are definitely places where just rotating the camera quickly at some points in the level... Yeah, here we are at the map view. You can definitely see that it's running at a slower frame rate, and it's struggling a little more. Particularly if you zoom out the map, which I do at later points in this demo. You can see that, like, it struggles to have the entire deformed environment rendered at once. And there's little moments where you move the camera while you've got a big view of the level that's got all these deformation things that you've done to it loaded in, where it struggles a little with keeping a stable frame rate. And, again, the unstable frame rate is the thing that can be a motion sickness trigger for me. But I'm struggling to put my finger on what else is going on that would cause motion sickness here, because, like, as someone that doesn't really experience it that often outside of first-person games with head bob and camera sway, this doesn't seem like the kind of game that should be making me feel motion sick the way it does. Motion sickness aside, I do think that this game looks gorgeous. I think a lot of its texture work is great. I love the new character model. I do have some concerns, and I talked about this in my wider Switch 2 video, but I want to talk about it a bit here. And again, this is not going to be a problem for everyone. This is a problem for me specifically, I know myself as a player and the things I'm prone to. I struggle with being obsessive about completionism in these kinds of games. And having 99% of the environment of the level be destructible, outside of, like, the platform these monkeys are stood on isn't destructible ground. There's an eventual bottom floor of the level you can't dig through, you can't dig deeper than a certain point. But the vast majority of the level is completely destructible, and there's a lot of points in this demo where I found secrets hidden that there was no real visual cue for, and that, while playing live, made me really conscious of, oh god, is there a secret behind, like, every single wall that I'm not getting because I'm not digging through that random wall right now? And every time I had that thought, it made me feel paranoid about walking past any innocuous bit of environment that I could instead be destroying. And I don't know whether I'm going to be able to have a healthy relationship with this game, in terms of being able to just go, I found enough secrets, I found enough treasure, I can move on, without being paranoid there's something else that I might have missed and I should keep digging, to a point where it's not going to be fun for me. Because, like, moment to moment, this stuff is great. The combat feels absolutely delightful. I loved beating up these enemies. the way that they react to being hit, it feels really tactile in the way that something like Wind Waker back in the day did, with its emphasizing music stings as the sword hits took place. These are the moments where I'm really enjoying the demo, and I'm really worried. I'm like, am I, when this game's in my hands, gonna spend like 6 hours in this first environment destroying every single bit of rock just to make sure I didn't accidentally miss a collectible somewhere? And maybe I'll be able to avoid that. Maybe it'll be fine, but the paranoia is real and is... It's making me cautious about playing this game, which is not a way I should feel about like a new Nintendo platformer. This is... I need to see in the final game if there are tools to give me a sense of like how high a percentage of things in the level have I found? How many left are there to find? Are there tools that will help track down things that I haven't found yet? If, for example, you play something like the PS5's Astrobot that came out last year, if you go back to a level you've already been to, you can pay some coins to get a bird that will sort of lead you to hidden collectibles that you haven't found. And there's a very clear signposting of, did you find all the puzzle pieces? Did you find all the little hidden robots? The position of a puzzle piece or a hidden robot will tell you, like, oh, you got the fourth one, but you missed the third. Go further back in the level to find the last one that you missed. That kind of signposting really helped in Astrobot for me to not get too overwhelmed and for me to have a sense of what to do if I wanted to be a completionist. I want to see any kind of signal that there is some kind of stuff like that in Donkey Kong Bananza. There are some tools to help with identifying if there's a secret somewhere nearby. I'm hoping that sometime soon I'm going to show it off on... Yeah, because there was a treasure chest. There was nothing that signified there was a treasure chest there for me. These are the moments that keep making me paranoid. I'm hoping in this demo that I, sometime soon, slap the floor with DK's hands, because that will sometimes make bananas that are nearby but through a wall sort of visible. And I'm hoping for an example of like, oh yeah, to show off, that's how I knew there was a thing back here. Yeah, there are some things that will signify, oh, there is something collectible sort of nearby. But again, I've not had enough context from this demo to know, is that going to be enough for me to not be paranoid? Again, I'm trying to talk this through as I watch it. There are clearly some signifiers sometimes for hidden things. Like, I'm currently bringing this big explosive rock because I saw a panel of metal in the wall and I can't break through metal without a big rock. That piece of metal told me there's probably something collectible back here, and there was one of these shells. So, like, there are some examples of things that help go, there is something nearby, don't miss it. Yeah, is this a point where I'm gonna slam the floor, or am I just digging into the walls, trying to get a sense of where I am in the level? Like, theoretically, I like that the map is indicative of the actual state of the level as it truly is. And again, this is why I wonder for things like speedrunning, is just digging a hole through to somewhere going to be the best way to make a route sometimes. Yeah, and I like that when you are in tunnel mode, you can kind of see other structures that exist, like, oh, there's something down there. You can get a sense of some of the stuff that is through the walls, which helps a little bit. But again, I found myself going off on all these little side tangents, just going, is there something here, is there something here? Rather than necessarily engaging with the overall level design. Absolutely everything being destructible gave me, I think, choice paralysis might be the best term for it. I was more obsessed with the fact I could be altering the levels than I was with the level design as it fundamentally stood. Like, maybe part of what I need to do to enjoy this game is I need to go through the level with minimal destruction, doing the things that are clearly intended mechanics, and then come back and play around with destroying things before I leave an area. Again, this is me just trying to work out what does this game want and how am I going to engage with it on terms that I will have a good time with? And I don't know the answer to that. That's not usually a question I have going hands-on with Nintendo games. I usually play a Nintendo game and I go, very quickly I understand what this game is going to be, and I can enjoy it without having to overthink it. Here, a lot of my... I played this for a good 20 minutes, I think. 20 minutes was not long enough for me to get a handle on whether I want to play this game. It was long enough for me to get a feel for the mechanics, and see what it felt like to play the game. I do like stuff like this. The stuff where it feels a little Breath of the Wildy, where it's like, oh, I found the equivalent of a shrine. I'm following clues to find the place that's going to deactivate it so I can access it. Some of this stuff is definitely really fun. I just feel very uncertain about it in a way that just what my relationship with the game loop is going to be. I say this as someone where, like, I played a 15-minute demo of Breath of the Wild back at E3 2016, the year before the Switch came out. 15 minutes with that game, I understood what my relationship with that world was going to be and what the fun of the loop was going to be. Here, I know that it feels fun to use the mechanics. I don't know enough of the overall flow of the world to know if I'm gonna... Because this is either going to be a game I'm going to play like 150 hours of and go, nothing particularly thoughtful to say about it, but I had a great time and I just kept playing and it was very compelling. Or it's going to be a game that I find actively stressful and, like, 12 hours in, having barely made progress, I put down and go, I can't play this without getting stressed. And yeah, hence my wanting to just kind of waffle about it. Again, talking about it out loud, I have a more positive experience, more positive impression of this game watching my footage back, I think, than I did when I was playing it in real time. In real time, I was more conscious of the overwhelming nature of it. But yeah, there we go. That's Donkey Kong Bananza. This is about when my demo is going to draw to a close. Nothing particularly conclusive in my thoughts there, but I just wanted to talk about this game as I watch my footage back, and I'm going to have more footage like this up over the next week while I mull over my thoughts on Switch 2 games, while we wait for the system to imminently release. Thank you very much. Bye.